Hello and thank you for joining me today. We're going to be taking a quick look at the Liquitex soft body professional acrylics. Now in the past you'll have noticed that I used Royal Talens acrylics and I also use Winsor & Newton acrylics, but I'd had these recommended and I thought I would give them a try. You'll see I've already made a start. That was actually because the videoing went wrong and I decided to start again. So that wasn't intentional. I was going to do the whole thing with you, but like I say, I made a mistake on the video and wanted to start again. So I did do a bit of a review on the Royal Talens acrylics a while back, and if you haven't seen that, I'll put the link to that up here. And I think actually now that I've got these out, I can see that they're very creamy consistency. Obviously it says soft body on them, and they are very soft, similar to the Royal Talens, but a lot softer than the Winsor & Newton ones, which I find to be a bit more thick. So I'm going to be doing a Bluebell, and I'm doing it on this Winsor & Newton Galleria paper, which is an acrylic pad. And so let me have a look. It's £140, acid free, and it's 10" by 7". So, and you can see it's got a little bit of a texture to it, a bit like a canvas. So the first thing to say about the Liquid Tex is I got just a small set because I wanted to try them out before I bought any more colours. So this little set comes with 6 tubes in this nice compact box. One thing I did like about this is there's no excessive packaging. You haven't got all those different plastics and things, you know, boxes within boxes. Just this one nice handy little box with the 6 tubes in, and plenty of information on the back there. So I'll pop that to one side and show you the colours that we've got. So to begin with, we've got Mars Black. Now I don't use black a lot myself. If you do want to use black, a handy tip is just to add a little bit of blue to it. It just lifts the colour a bit. It makes it less of a flat, dead looking colour. So just a little bit of ultramarine or something like that, and to get a nice dark added to your black, that might work as well. Okay, now one we will need is the crimson. I'm not going to pronounce this, but it's NAPHTHOL crimson. We've got ultramarine blue, which is a green shade. Got titanium white, cadmium yellow, and a green, which is a blue shade of green, and again I can't pronounce it. It's PHTHALOCYANINE. So I have no idea how you pronounce that. So I've already got out, as you can see, some of the titanium, the ultramarine and the crimson to get the colours of these Bluebells. Now they're nice and creamy, so we're not going to need to add any water to them. We'll just use water for cleaning our brushes and actually put them on quite neat. So I don't know if you can see, it's a lovely creamy consistency. So we're going to be able to blend and move these paints quite easily, even with this textured paper, to get it into all those textures there. So far I think they're really nice, because I just had a go with this here. And I'm going to perhaps leave that as it is now. So I've just used, all I've done there is I've mixed the blue, the white, and added a touch of red into it because they are quite lavendery, these Bluebells. So I'll just come back and put 1 or 2 lines in where, just to get the shape of this bud a bit better. I mean, as I've said before when I've been doing demonstrations of flowers and things, how much detailing you want to put in is really up to you. As long as we know it's a Bluebell. Does it necessarily need to be this particular Bluebell? I don't know. You know what I mean? It just need to get the shapes right so that we get the fact that it's an actual Bluebell. So this is a bud sort of all curled round. So those darks were just made up of the blue and the red without any white. And I'm just going to use the white neat on its own to get this highlight across the top where the sun's shining on the top of the flower there. And how much blending into the other colours you do, again, is up to you, what style you like. I think they look quite nice just blended, and some nice soft edges on there, as they're a nice soft petal. Again, it depends on your subject. The style you choose to work in often depends on the subject that you're doing and what it lends itself to. So with flowers, it's nice and delicate. You don't want them to be too harsh in the line. So I've just got a clean dry brush, and I don't know if you can see, I just made a bit of a mess on there. I'm just going to soften the edge. And they're blending in quite nicely and not drying too quickly, because they're nice and creamy. So that was just that bud to begin with. Perhaps I've got it quite a bit darker than on there, and perhaps not pink enough actually. I think I might add some more. Once that's dry, I think I might come over and add a little bit more red to that. In fact, I might make just a pinky colour up now without any of the blue, just with some of the red and white, and pop that across the top. As you can see, I just feel that here and here it's very pinky. Just blend that in a little bit whilst it's still quite wet. And following those lines that we've previously put on with the other colours. So just with this small brush again, I'm just going to try and blend that in a little bit. And some of that underneath has dried, so when I'm coming up to blend in, it's just softening it all, letting those colours underneath still show through as well. I think that's better. I think that's more of the colours of the bud there. In fact, we've lost a little bit of that dark from the centre there. So far with these paints, I really like them. They're moving across this paper, which, like I said before, is quite a heavy texture to it. They're moving across this paper very nicely, and blending together very well, but at the same time they're sort of sitting on top of each other very nicely as well, so you can allow the colours from underneath to shine through. So I'm not sure about the colour of this stem. It's very, very pale, isn't it? So plenty of white with some of that blue that we mixed earlier. Just look very carefully when you get to the end here where things are attached, which stalk's attached to which. So this one comes behind this flower here, and then it goes into the main stem where it becomes more green. So for now, before it dries, I'm just going to soften that edge there and bring it down. Then later on we'll be coming over that with some green. Just so we don't have any harsh lines, I'll just blend that in a little bit now. Those colours will come through from underneath. Okay, so if we take a look at it now, the sun is shining on the top half of this stem. So we'll just go along with some white. And it's very, very pale. The whole thing's very, very pale. So bring that white down. We don't need any more blue on the underside, I don't think, because that's pretty pale. Just get that little shape there. This shape's of the sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, a little cuff around the end of the bud there, isn't showing up too much. And that shape will show up more when we do the background, and we get that negative shape in. Okay, so I'll leave that one and move on to, I was going to move on to the flower, but actually I'll do these at the top. These are some sort of extra petals, or maybe that was the covering before the bud came out, I'm not entirely sure. The top one again will do very similar to the stem because it's very similar colours to the stem. Again, look carefully at the shape there. And at this point, if your pencil lines are wrong, if you look again and think, well, you've actually got your pencil lines slightly wrong, move them a little bit. So I'm actually now drying my brush out between, after I've washed it, because it's just holding on to too much water, and because it's so, these acrylics are quite creamy to begin with and quite soft, it's not, we don't need that water. So that's one thing I would say about these acrylics, is to use them without any thinner, just to use them as they come out straight out of the tube. So keep the white along the top edge there where the sun's shining on it, but actually bring it right down and let it go over the top of that that blue, and let the blue still shine through a little bit at the bottom there. If you need extra highlights later, we can always put those on once it's completely dry. So at the moment we've still got just these three colours. With it being a very small set and just the primaries with that one green and the white and the black, although we've only got those few colours, we should be able to make whatever we need really, because of course we've got the primaries there. So I'm going to go ahead now and carry on doing this. I might come back and start and touch a little bit more when we come and put the greens in, or I'll put a voiceover later on to tell you what I've been doing. But basically, so far I'm really liking this paint, and I'm sure I'll use it again. So whether I go on and buy some more colours, I'm not sure. But so far so good, I do really like them. This is starting to dry now, but it's still got a little bit of shine on it, so you can see that I do work quite quickly, so it really depends on your style of working. I like to blend the colours into each other a little bit, but if you're a more precise worker, if you work, you know, laying your colours next to each other more, that kind of thing, and rather than layering up and blending, these are drying quite quickly for that, so that would be great too. So I think for anybody who works in acrylics, these would be nice to work with. They flow really nicely off your brush. Okay, so I'll carry on doing the rest of this flower now. Hello, I thought I'd rejoin you at this point to talk through what I've been doing with the flowers. So just testing out these paints using various techniques, blending the colours together on the paper, mixing the colours together on the palette, using them on top of each other quite thinly, and also using them to make some nice lines to get those darker shadows and things as well. So they flow really nicely off the brush. They're nice paints to work with in all ways really, and I think this is quite a good test, this flower, because we've got lots of different tones going on in the flowers there. So I've just used the same three colours, the ultramarine, the crimson and the white. The very darkest areas in the flowers are just with the ultramarine and the crimson, going through to the lightest areas with the white. So I quite enjoyed doing this, although it's more detailed than I would normally do. Those of you who watch me regularly know that I usually work much more quickly than this and don't do this amount of detail using such small brushes. But it's quite relaxing doing this, and I have quite enjoyed getting to know these paints, doing these flowers. So as I move on to the stem, I'm using the ultramarine and the cadmium to make the green. The green that came in the set isn't suitable for the stem at all, so I've made a green and I'm going to apply that, and then I apply some red to the underside of the stem. If you look at the flower carefully, you'll see that there's red colouring in the stem, as there quite often is with any flowers that are on the pink side of blue or the red flowers. They've very often got some red in the stem as well. So that's on the underside, and then I've put some white on the top side of the stem and blending those colours whilst they're still wet on the paper. So obviously you need to work quickly with acrylics if you want to blend them before they dry out. So but again, like I said, you can put them on top of the other colours quite thinly, and you'll see at times throughout whilst I was doing the flowers that I did use a soft brush to blend them rather than applying them. You know, after I'd applied them I used a dry brush to blend them, and the other colours then shine through what you've got there already. So yeah, just putting some highlights on the top with the white, and then I'm going to blend that all together to make that stem stand out. So I did decide after I'd done this to do the background quite dark to make it stand out more, because the flower's got a lot of highlight on it. So I did a very dark green to do the background. When I was doing the editing afterwards and looking at it, I thought actually it looked quite nice with just the white behind, although I had smudged in one or two places, so I did want to cover it up. But what I thought also might be quite nice if you were trying something like this, and maybe if I did it again, would be to have a very flat solid colour of maybe something like lemon or a pale pink. A very pale pastel-y colour behind it would look quite nice, rather than making the sort of realistic green background. So the background was very loose. I just put a lot of green on, and then went into it with a little bit of the blues that were left on the palette and some yellows just to brighten it up a touch. But very little detail in the background, just sort of blending all that in together. So overall I really like these paints, and I'll certainly use them again, and I'm hopefully going to get some more colours soon. Certainly recommend them. So they really do lend themselves to quite detailed work, and I think it would be nice to work with them on a smoother paper as well another time. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that, and if you've got these paints yourself, if you want to let me know how you find them in the comments below, that would be good for other people to know any top tips that you've got as well for using them. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.